Hi everyone, Empress Justice here. If you'd like to check out daily readings, you can check them out on Empress Justice Tarot, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you'd like to check out daily readings, you can check them out on July. You can check out my July 2022 reading. You can also check out the New Moon and Pusher reading, both of which are on Empress Justice Tarot YouTube. Speaking of my readings, I'm going to be taking a break from today to the 31st of July. I'm going to be taking a week's break from doing the daily readings. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be doing any readings at all. You might see me again on the 28th for the new moon. But as for what's going on at this moment with regards to the daily readings, I'm not going to be doing any daily readings from the 23rd now to the 31st, which, to the 31st of July. And also there will be a live August 2022 reading on the 1st of August as well. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, you're not going to get any dailies from me for the next 8 days. What did I want to talk about when I came on here? I wanted to talk about two things. The first thing I wanted to talk about was how TIs process things, and the second thing that I wanted to talk about was sorry, I'm just dealing with this TI at the moment, talking stuff. I'll get to that in a second. So the first thing I want to talk about is the TI trap that we all fall into, especially when we're first starting out. And the second thing is that I want to talk about is the anxiety trap. But let me talk about the TI trap first. Now, you get some TIs who are relatively well functioning and they don't really have any mental health problems. But unfortunately, you do have some TIs like myself who have had mental health issues in the past. And what tends to happen is when TIs are going through what they're going through and they want to tell people about it, they usually talk about the worst stuff that they go through, like being sexually assaulted by the weapons, disturbing stuff that is said to us through V2K, all that type of stuff. And we go into detail as well. And the reason why we do this is because people are going to think we're crazy if we even talk about the tame stuff that's going on with us anyway. So we might as well just start off the deep end, talk about the really, really heavy shit, and then whoever believes us, and whoever doesn't. So we start off with the heavy shit first, the electronic torture, the sexual assault via the weaponry, the V2K, the voice to skull. So we start off with all that first in a bid to sort of, because we don't, we already know people think the worst of us anyway, and we already know we've been written off as crazy and that any mental illnesses we might have been used to discredit the gang stalking. So we start off with the worst first, and that serves, in our conscious minds, it serves a multitude of purposes. One, we get that out there immediately so that when people find out about what's going on, nobody can say we didn't tell them. The second reason is that it filters out all the people who we believe might be serious about helping us. But this is only going on in our conscious mind. Subconsciously, what we're actually doing is projecting the anger onto non-TIs or even onto other TIs. That's what we end up doing. We end up going through this painful shit every day, this horrific shit, and then we need someone to hurt. We need someone to take our shit out on. And what we don't realize, by sharing the worst parts of ourselves and by sharing the worst parts of our experiences, we're actually taking our shit out on people who are non-TIs or people who, have no experience with it, or even other baby TIs who are not as mentally maladjusted as we are. Because again, there are different types of TIs. There are TIs who are mentally well, that have nothing wrong with them. It's just that they were nominated by people who were not well, right? So yeah, because the thing is, with TIs and perps alike, you've got people who are well and you've got people who are not well, right? So when a TI who is not well is having these horrific things done to them, they will talk about the most horrific shit and the most shameful shit done to them out of embarrassment and out of a need to hurt someone, even if that hurt is just simply talking about triggering stuff that any normal person would find abhorrent, right? So when a TI starts out going through this, that's what they tend to do. They tend to be like, get all the worst parts out of the way first. And therefore, if people start saying that I'm crazy, then it doesn't hurt me as much because the stuff that I've talked about is really extreme. So there's all these different things subconsciously going into a TI's mind when a TI is not well. Now, perps can do the same thing. What perps can do, this is what makes it tricky, because if TIs are not well, they can do that. They can start off being really aggressive, really mean, really like talking about the worst of their experiences. But the thing is, perps mimic TIs. So a perp can easily come online or easily engage in a face-to-face discussion with you and do the same thing. Now, I've experienced that happening with me over the years, and I realized that the more well-adjusted I become up here is the less that I'm willing to put up with the type of behavior that I myself used to engage in. Now, a lot of people would look at this and they would say, oh, that's hypocritical because you did that, you should show compassion. I'm thinking there's nothing wrong with my compassion, but the more well-adjusted you become is the more aware you become of your boundaries. Boundaries is a very important part of your being able to adjust to the world around you and your mental health, right? So the fact that you're laying down boundaries is not just a sign that, it's not just a sign that you're willing to do whatever it takes to be better in your mental state. It's also a sign that you actually are better in your mental state, because I used to have a problem with boundaries before. Increasingly, as I get older, I have less and less of a problem in laying down boundaries. So even the same behavior that I used to get up to, that I used to do with regards to pushing people away or hurting people by triggering them with what I'm going through, the same behavior that I used to engage in is now not the same type of behavior that I'm willing to put up with. And it's not because I'm a hypocrite. It's not because, people change. That's not hypocrisy. That's simply learning a lesson and, and proceeding forward, with a new attitude. That's all it is. All you're doing is learning a lesson. You're learning a lesson that in order to preserve your own mental health, you can't take on everybody's shit. And when people are trying to attack anybody with the experiences that they've had, you don't have to put up with it. You really, really don't. You don't have to put up with the shit. When I was going through all this stuff and I was doing the worst, catastrophizing everything that I was going through and talking about the worst experiences that I was going through at the time, when I was doing that, I didn't understand people who didn't want to talk to me anymore, who didn't want anything to do with me, but now I get it. That's called preserving your peace. That's called preserving your peace, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, again, when TIs engage in that behavior, it's not easy to tell whether they're TIs or not, because, how do I put this? You can be there are certain TIs who are true blue narcissists. It's true. There are TIs out there who are true blue narcissists. Then there are TIs out there who are like, then there are TIs who are not narcissists, but display narcissistic traits. I'm one of those people. I'm not a narcissist in and of itself. I don't have that personality disorder, but I have narcissistic traits. And then there are other TIs who don't have narcissistic traits and who are not narcissistic. TIs are basically like any other ordinary human being. It's just that we're going through a massive amount of torture. So what the perps do with that, as part of the narcissistic abuse, is to imitate what you do, to kind of, to imitate what you do or rip off what you do. So what the perps will do as part of the narcissistic abuse is they will take the traits that some TIs have and either blow them up or try to use them back on the TI so that the TI feels, not sure of themselves or not sure-footed. And it happens all the time. So when that kind of abusive behavior, when TIs experience that kind of abusive behavior, it becomes very difficult to tell whether it's a TI or a perp, because some TIs can be really abusive and some perps can be really abusive. And the only real clues you have to go on are how suspect the TI or perp might be behaving. That's the only real, clue that you have that something is amiss. Do you understand what I mean? But with regards to that, this is why I used to go around like just assuming people were perps, but I don't do that anymore. Because human beings as a whole are very, very complex. We have different types of human beings, and the TI community is no different. But the irony is that's exactly what makes us so vulnerable, and that's exactly what makes us so easy to penetrate as a community. It's the fact that we're actually like everybody else. It's just that we have all this weird shit happening to us all the time. So the fact that at our core, we're just like everybody else, it makes it easier to infiltrate us, because part of the narcissistic abuse aimed at us is to copy what we do and use that against us, or weaponize that against us. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, the TI trap is, recognizing your pain, not recognizing your pain is your pain, not recognizing how it makes you feel, and then low-key projecting that anger onto other TIs. That's the TI trap. And, perps are very, very ready and willing to use that at any opportunity. Because as we know, in gang stalking, there is no limit to the evil. There's no limit. Like fucking copying the narc traits of a TI, that's like a fucking gold mine to them. And then on top of that, that's not even the worst that they can do. That's child's play in comparison to what perps could do and have done. So that's the TI trap. The one thing you don't want to do as a targeted individual, and I learned this the hard way, so don't get it twisted. I learned this the hard way. I learned everything the hard way. What you don't want to do is let your feelings about your torture go unnoticed, because in the bid to prove that we're strong and that we won't cry and that we'll repress our emotions and then we'll take it out on other TIs, and that's not something we want to do. And this is going to be really, really difficult for me to say, and it's actually very, very horrible what I'm about to say, but the more pain you go through as a TI is the more you have to test people to see if they're serious. That means you can't accept anybody and everybody's company. You can't talk to anybody and everybody when you're going through that much pain. And I know it sounds like a really, really weird thing to say, because we need help, right? If we're going through fucking physical and mental anguish, we need people to talk to. And then there's the factor of, what if the only people that we get in our lives are predators? But hear me out. Sometimes the more you need help is the more you attract that need. Meaning, the more you need help is sometimes the more, the less help you actually get, the more help that you need. So when you're going through really, really tough times, you have to kind of weather through it on your own sometimes. And I know it sounds like a really horrible thing to say, because it is so horrible, because it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Go through that pain on your own. But hear me out. When you're in need, it's very easy for somebody to exploit you for the last of whatever it is that you have. That's how you get scammers. That's how you get charlatans. That's how you get people coming to you, love bombing the crap out of you. And then next thing you know, they're fucking trafficking you, or they're emotionally annihilating you in one way or another. the more pain that you go through, is the more you got to try to stick it out on your own. And I know it sounds really, really counterproductive and awful, but again, need attracts need. Need attracts need, and want attracts want. The more that you need and want somebody to help you or somebody to come in and save you, the more you need and want that, is the more you attract that want and need, which means the less that you're likely to actually get what you're supposed to get. So if you can stick it out on your own as much as possible, try to stick it out on your own as much as possible. Now, this doesn't mean don't tell anybody. Because when people need to know the facts about how directed energy weapons are being used, how neuro-linguistic programming is being used, how cyber torture or cyber harassment is being used in order to get at us, people need to know the facts about how these things work. So by all means, if you're going through that shit, still keep it documented, still share it publicly. Do not let these perps do this shit to you without the whole fucking world knowing. Don't let them get away with it. But when it comes to personal interactions, sometimes the more pain that you go through, the less helpful people are likely to be. And this is especially the case when you're a TI, because remember, the purpose is to break our spirit. So when you're going through certain shit, it's best you go muddle through it on your own for now. The stronger you become, the more resilient you become in your pain, is the more you start to attract the right people. So as a TI, the TI trap is not sharing the worst of yourself with other people. That's not what the trap is. The trap is in not admitting how you feel. The trap is not watching that subconscious need to hurt someone after you've been hurt. Those are the traps that you need to look out for as a targeted individual. Now, I'm going to talk about something a little bit less extreme now. I'm going to talk about the anxiety trap. And I experience that every morning, because when you wake up in the morning, you get an extra round of, I think, cortisol through your body when you wake up. And the whole purpose of that cortisol going through your body is to keep you awake and to keep you active once you get up. But the downside to that is that people who are already kind of imbalanced, they go through anxiety. And as a TI, not only do you go through anxiety as a result of the cortisol going through your veins when you're just waking up, you also get that as a result of the stress that you go through every day and the frequency weapons being fired at you. So you get like loads of cortisol just coursing through your body. And what happens is you get a certain amount of anxiety, or you get a lot of anxiety, right? What happens when you have that anxiety running through your brain? Your mind will latch on to triggering past memories or triggering circumstances that either bring about a feeling of shame or guilt on your part. And the reason why your mind does that when you start to feel anxious is because, remember, your brain is there to keep you safe. So if you're having anxious feelings and your brain doesn't have a place to rest it on, to rest that anxiety on, then you might come undone. So this is the brain's attempt to keep you safe. It doesn't actually mean that you actually feel that way about whatever memory or whatever, whatever trauma your anxiety is attaching itself to. It doesn't necessarily mean you actually feel that way about that memory. It's just that the anxiety needs something to attach itself to, because you're feeling anxious without the corresponding thought patterns that come along with them. So they need to attach themselves to something in order to make sense of what it's feeling. Remember, this is your brain. This is how your brain works. So when you're feeling anxious like that, and certain memories crop up for the anxieties to attach themselves to, really ask yourself, how do I actually feel about these memories? How do I actually feel about them? And does this anxiety that I'm feeling match what's going on? 9 times out of 10, you're going to find that how you really feel about the memory it doesn't match with the anxiety that's coursing through your body. And the reason why the anxiety is coursing through your body, it's simply down to chemicals. So that's the first thing you do. You separate the anxiety from the memory. The second thing that you do is that this is why when people get up in the morning, they do yoga or they do meditation or they drink some chamomile tea, something, to get their anxiety levels down, because you're already awake. Now you need to bring it on down. So it's all about managing the chemical imbalances, managing the chemical imbalances in your body and calming yourself right back down again. Drinking water helps. Morning exercise helps, like morning yoga. What I've experienced is taking a shower. Listen, a lot of people say that, oh, taking a shower, it's normal. You don't understand the healing properties of a shower. Taking a shower, not a bath, a shower, morning and night. You have no idea the kind of healing properties that you can get from that shit. So when you take a shower in the morning, it calms your body down and it relaxes you. It gives you that dopamine to balance out the cortisol, so you're not feeling that stressed out. You're getting some form of pleasure out of it as well. So you jump in the shower and you feel that dopamine coursing through your veins. You can't go wrong with that. You cannot go wrong. The first thing I did when I got up this morning was take a shower, and it was one of the best effects it's ever had on my body and my mind. And I do that every day. So you can imagine the amount of calm that comes over me every morning, even as I get up and I get that morning anxiety. So physical solutions to the anxiety helps. Like, again, chamomile tea is really good. It's usually really good with milk, actually, but you want to nix the milk until the nighttime, like when you really need to sleep. So chamomile tea, meditation in the morning helps as well. I used to meditate sometimes in the morning, and that really, really helped me. I need to go back to that. Yoga definitely helps because you're combining physical activity with meditation. You can't go wrong with yoga in the morning. So the anxiety trap as well is another thing that we need to watch out for. It doesn't just happen in the morning, because remember, we're TIs, and we might find ourselves triggered with anxiety out of nowhere. We'll have that anxiety coursing through our bodies, and when that happens, we need to find a way to deal with it. So that's one of the ways in which we deal with it, like morning exercise, meditation, showers. Listen, showers definitely help. And so meditation, showers, yoga, physical activity, water, and chamomile tea. So that helps with anxiety in the mornings. So anyway, I gotta go. That's just that. Those are just my 2 cents about specific stuff that that I've observed, and I hope it helps you guys as well. So listen, I gotta go. I love you guys so much. Peace and blessings. Bye bye.